Welcome back, fellow problem solvers. My name is Mr Oosthuizen, as you know, John East. So if you're driving a car, yet again, the car analogy, I know, then you know which laws to obey traffic-wise. Now, mathematics is exactly the same. So, exponent laws coming up. Share, like, and subscribe. So let's look at the exponent laws, and these are your keys when it comes to your calculations. So please memorize them now. You will have to use them all the way to grade 12. So even if you have to pause this video and memorize them, do it. I encourage you to do it. But let's look at some explanations. So first rule is a to the power of m times a to the power of n is equal to a to the power of m plus n. And this is where a is the same base and m and n are different or the same exponents. For example, let's say 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 2 is equal to 2 to the power of 3 plus 2, which is 2 to the power of 5. Let's quickly have a look at how this works. 2 to the power of 3 is 8, right? 2 to the power of 2 is equal to 4. 8 times 4 is 32. And we know 2 to the power of 5 is the same as saying 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Let's quickly test it. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. Now the same goes with division. So as you remember from a previous video, I've already explained this. So let's say, for instance, we have 3 to the power of 5 divided by 3 to the power of 2. Then it's easy to write it down and understand as follows. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And 3 squared is 3 times 3. And they are being divided by each other. Now, as we divide, we can cancel out 2 of these 3's. So what will be left is 3 times 3 times 3, which is equal to 3 to the power of 3. Now, if we go directly from here, interpret our rule 2, then if we divide, then we can say 3 to the power of 5 minus 2, which is equal to 3 to the power of 3, which is exactly the same as what we got by applying this rule 2, which states a to the power of m divided by a to the power of n is equal to a to the power of m minus n. And that's where a is the same base and m and n are exponents. Let's look at the third rule. A to the power of m and all of that in the bracket to the power of n is equal to a to the power of m times n. And that's also with exponents. Let's take a look at this. So let's say 2 to the power of 3. Everything to the power of 2. And you know that if we square something, it's 2 to the power of 3 times itself, right? 2 to the power of 3. And if we use our previous law, actually rule number 1, it's easy for us to see that over here we can say it's 2 to the power of 3 plus 3, which is equal to 2 to the power of 6. We can even write it out and say, okay, 2 times 2 times 2, that's the first one, times 2 times 2 times 2. As you can see, there are 6 2's. 2 is being multiplied with itself 6 times. Now, if we apply our rule, we will say 2 to the power of 3 times 2. What is 2 times 3? Well, you've guessed it and calculated. It is equal to 6. That brings us to the final rule, the product rule. And that's when we have two numbers being multiplied with each other and their product to the power of an exponent, n. If that's the case, we can then apply that exponent to both of those numbers inside the bracket. This only works with multiplication and division. It does not work with adding and subtracting. Very important. It doesn't work with adding and subtracting, only with multiplication and division. I'm going to use the number 36 as an example. We know the square root of 36 is equal to 6. Okay? But we also know that 36 is the product of 9 times 4. And this is the square root of 9 times 4. We can then write this as the square root of 9 times the square root of 4. We know the square root of 9 is equal to 3. The square root of 4 is equal to 2. 3 times 2 is equal to 6. So this works out perfectly. Remember, a square root is like an exponent. So that's an easy one to understand. We can even look at a second example in this case and think of something being squared. So let's say, well, we can do the opposite. We can say 6 squared is equal to 36. But we know 6 is the product of 2 times 3. So if we say 2 times 3 squared, we can write this down as 2 squared times 3 squared, which is equal to 4 times 9, which is equal to 36. And that's how it works. So that's how the cookie crumbles. Stay tuned for more.